Welcome to Holistic Accountant Podcast, where we aim to showcase how adopting a holistic approach in accounting and tax maximizes value for clients. Beyond traditional tasks like preparing financial statements and tax returns, a holistic accountant focuses on offering advice that maximizes personal wealth on an after-tax basis. If you enjoy this episode, please consider leaving a rating and sharing it with those who might also benefit. And to ensure you stay updated, subscribe to our weekly email. The link is in the show notes.
Today, Stuart and I would like to talk about when to employ staff. So we get this question asked a lot when, businesses first start out. You're getting really bogged down and getting really busy in the business, and you don't know if you need those additional resources or not. And typically what we tend to advise our clients is to put off employment as long as possible, because what you want to do is you want to refine your business, your methodologies, your structures, your checklists, your workflows, everything. You want to get it down to a fine, or you want to fine tune it so that when someone comes along, that they've got a solid foundation to work off, and otherwise you're not going to be able to achieve any scale from employing that, from getting additional help.
I certainly found that when I started ProSolution more than 20 years ago now, Mena. That's why I feel tired and old and grumpy.
True story.
That I would get to a certain stage and I thought, okay, I'm ready to hire a staff member, and then I would make some tweaks to the processes and systems and whatever, and then realised actually I can keep increasing the revenue without needing additional staff. So it really helps by making sure that your systems and processes are great. And then when you do ultimately hire a staff member, it tests those systems and processes again, and you get another chance to make them even more robust. One of the considerations, or I think one of the fears that business people have by employing people isn't what you might expect, which is, will I be able to afford to pay them? But mostly it means they're on the hook to do the more difficult work. That we often feel safe doing the sort of repetitive work in our businesses, the stuff that we know how to do, the day-to-day, whether you've got a service business that's looking after clients or designing a product if you're a product business, whatever that might be. But when we delegate that to a staff member, we then have to work on the unstructured stuff like business development or coaching staff or marketing or, those sorts of things that ultimately are going to help grow the business. But it is very unstructured work, and we're not necessarily used to doing it on a day-to-day basis. So it can seem a little bit scary, and sometimes it's a bit safer just to stick to the day-to-day stuff. So that's another consideration or acknowledgement that, if I do go and hire staff, and I can free up 20 hours a week, I want to be investing that 20 hours as well as possible to build as much business value as possible, which means holding yourself accountable, or if you have a business coach, they can hold you accountable for doing that difficult work 20 hours a week.
And what you got to also discuss with your accountant is cash flows. So, if your business isn't faring too well, you typically wouldn't want to be bringing on, additional liabilities into the business. So what you got to work in with your holistic accounting is what value is this potential employee going to bring to the table? Are they going to, generate sort of revenue for you? Are they just going to do the grunt work so you can focus on the business? Projecting out these cash flows is crucial before you actually commit to the liability of employing a staff member.
Of course, there's lots of different options when it comes to staffing, a lot more than 20 years ago when I first hired staff. So, that can range from having contractors, so that is at least you just pay them a fixed fee or a unit style fee. There can be some risks associated with that, which Mena will talk about in a second. But also you can have, you don't have to have someone that's full-time, maybe part-timers, a return to work mother, or, someone that doesn't really want to work full-time. There's certainly a lot more people in that category these days. And of course, offshore or virtual staff members are very popular and very economical too. So depending on the tasks that you want them to complete. So I think it's important to consider all those different options and try and choose an option that's as scalable as possible. So if you only need a couple of days of help, try and find an option where you can at least start with a couple of days. But if you find the right person or right provider, that you can kind of scale that up as the business grows. Otherwise, you risk getting sucked back into the business process again.
And there's various considerations and compliance requirements when you start to bring on additional help. So, for example, if you go down the contractor or deemed employee path, you got to think about whether you need the single touch payroll reporting. You need to consider whether you need Workcover insurance, pay them super, withhold their taxes, or are you liable for payroll taxes? So it's important to understand what's actually involved before you employ any staff, and that's a very important conversation to have with your accountant beforehand.
So there you go. That's some of the considerations you might need to take into account when employing staff. Can be a sort of scary transition as you sort of build your business, but one, if it's done correctly at the right time, is ultimately very rewarding. Okay, that's it for this week. Until next week, bye for now.